Welcome back to the channel. Just thought I would show you how to make a hydraulic hose. So we had a hose blow on our big excavator, 3/4 inch hose. I didn't have the fittings in stock because I don't stock any 3/4 inch stuff because I don't make that many. Most of the stuff for the golf course is 5/8 and smaller. So I keep quite a few of those fittings, the common ones that we use, but my supplier, they're about 40 minutes away. So I ran and got the fittings I needed yesterday and to make the hose first thing this morning. So I got my new hose here. I'm just gonna match it up and I wanna measure from where the fitting's gonna be. So it is critical that we get these the correct length. Luckily on this hose, it was a test line. So what I ended up doing, this end was the test port. This is a O-ring flange fitting. So I cut it off and took a piece of metal and brazed it onto the end of the fitting and put this back on the machine so they could keep running it. We're trying to get in some drainage pipe and it's raining every afternoon, so we never know how long we got before we get the next thunderstorm coming through, and wanted to get our drain pipe installed. So that worked out really good. This is just a rigid shop saw that I kind of repurposed. And I got it set up on this stand, and this stand is where we keep all of our hoses. We always know when we're making hydraulic hoses because of the smell of burning rubber. But these hoses have internal steel braids, so you got to use some kind of abrasive wheel. The other thing I'll do is just take an air hose, blow out all the stuff that's inside the hose before I put the fittings on. Blow out my hose. My hydraulic crimper also works off air. So I have this air hose regulated to 90 PSI, and this is the only thing we use this air hose for, blowing a hose out or running the crimper. So right now I don't have the correct dies in here, so I'm gonna have to change those out. This just swings out of the way. This is just a spacer. It came with this handy magnet for pulling the die out. That doesn't want to stick too good. Yeah, that's how handy it is.
High five. Great.
These are lubed up, so they work pretty good together. When I bought the machine, it comes with a lifetime supply of grease. It's Gates dye lube. I think, I mean, you see how big this container is? I do think it'll last you a lifetime. I mean, doesn't take that much grease on the dye, but you do want to make sure they're greased. So I'm putting in the 3/4 die. So the next thing I need to know is where to set my dial on this. So I'm using MXT hose. So you got to know what hose you're using, what size the hose is. So it's 3/4 inch hose. So I'm going to set this to 310. And you just turn the dial here Get it to 310. I use a real sophisticated method to know I got this on all the way. Put my thumb right here on the hose and line it up, and then push this on. And if it hits my thumb, I know I got it all the way in. I mean, really sophisticated stuff, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and crimp this one on. This is something that's kind of unusual to have two 90s on a hose, and they're 90 degrees apart on this hose. So it is critical to get that line back up. Normally, most hydraulic hoses you see will only have a 90 on, or an angle on one side, and it'll be straight on the other. So then it's not too critical how you line these up. They don't have to be indexed. For most fittings, you don't have to do that. Just so you can get a better look at it, I want the fitting about 1/8 of an inch below the top surface of the die before I start crimping it. So we just run the pump until we hear the beep. There's also a red light that comes on here. I'm just gonna swing this out of the way to pull this, take this off first. And then just push up from the bottom, and the die releases pretty easy. And then we can pull our fitting out of there. And now we'll do our other side. But as you can see, just crimps it. All right, so I got this fitting put on the hose, and it's 90 degrees to this one. Just really critical that we get all these angles right, and we'll see if it works after I get the hose together. But we're gonna do the same thing here. Just so you know, this is an O-ring flange fitting, and this is a flat face O-ring fitting. So it does have an O-ring seal on the male side of the fitting. This one, the O-ring goes in right here. And this one has 4 bolts and some brackets that hold the flange on. We don't see too many of these in the turf industry. Most of the stuff that we run into is O-ring face seal, flat face, and see a little bit of JIC, but mainly O-ring face seal. So same thing on this. Put that on there. Close this back down and turn on our pump. So here, I'm a little cockeyed, so we'll try to straighten it up a little bit. I mean, it is self-aligning, but I like to get it as straight as I can.
12 seconds later.
I'm just sneaking up on it. That's why you hear the pump on and off, on and off. Yeah. So I'll show you how we measure and make sure our crimp is within spec. When I got the Gates crimping machine, it also comes with a digital caliper. And this caliper is special because it's got these little cutouts in the end of it. And that's just so it'll get around the spaces on the end of the fitting. But also on this card, so we know it was 3/4 inch hose, it tells us how far we insert it, and our crimp diameter is 1.370, plus or minus 1/100th. So let's see how close we are. It was 170. So I'm gonna go inside here after I turn my gauge on and make sure it's zeroed. So we are at 1.368. And our spec was 0.37. So it's slightly over crimped, but it's still within spec. When I bought this machine, I bought the crimper, the pump, and all the fittings through O'Reilly's, and they threw in the cabinet behind me. So, and I don't remember, total investment was probably $2,500. And this was, trying to think, I mean, it's probably close to 10 years ago. So I don't know what it is now, today's prices, but it's one of those things, definitely a really handy tool to have around the shop. And where I'm located, I have a Napa that'll make a hose, but every time I go there, they don't have the fittings I need. So I end up going to Royal Brass and Hose or B&J Hydraulic. They're both in Marietta. They're both about a 45-minute drive one way. So I'm gone for at least 2 hours minimum if I got to get a hydraulic hose made. So I stock all the hydraulic fittings that I need for all my turf equipment. So my fairway mowers, my triplexes, all that stuff, I keep those fittings in stock. Like I was saying before, the sizes, the hose size is from 5/8 to 1/4 inch, and it's mostly O-ring face seal. So I just keep all that stuff in stock. And I don't keep a ton of stuff on hand, only 1 or 2 fittings, because normally I'm just replacing 1 or 2 hoses at a time. Occasionally, like if I'm replacing steering hoses, so the hoses that go to the 4-wheel drive motors on a fairway unit, I'll just buy all those fittings and do that over the winter time. And we try to do that every couple years. Toro recommends all the moving hoses. So the ones going to the reels and ones going to steering cylinders every 3 years. But in my experience, sometimes you don't get 3 years out of a hydraulic hose. My fairway mowers are about 4 years old, and I'm having problems. And we got new fairway mowers on the way, but they haven't got here yet. Until next time, see you, bye.